In the world of chess, a game that's literally packed with geniuses, one name has reigned supreme for more than a decade now: Magnus Carlsen. But what is it that makes him so much better than the other best players in the world? I mean, really, what's his secret? It's a question that has baffled grandmasters, analysts, and fans like us for years. Well, today, we're going to try and crack that code. We are going to deconstruct the Magnus enigma, piece by piece, to really understand what makes this guy tick. And we're going to start with just a single number, a number that says it all.
So, look at this number, 2882. This isn't just a high score in a video game, folks. This is the Mount Everest of chess. It is the highest peak rating ever achieved in the history of the game, a record set by Magnus Carlsen back in May of 2014. Now, just to give you a little perspective, the ELO rating system is set up so that if you're 200 points higher than your opponent, you're expected to win something like 76% of the time. Carlsen's peak was almost 400 points higher than what's considered the Grandmaster level. So this number, 2882, it's not just a record, it's a symbol of almost unimaginable dominance.
And this chart right here, this just puts that dominance into a truly staggering visual. So in June 2014, you've got Magnus up there at 2881. The world's number 2 player, Levon Aronian, is way down at 2815. That's a massive 66-point gap. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. That 66-point gap between number 1 and number 2 was almost the same size as the gap between number 2 and the world's 14th ranked player. Think about that. He wasn't just leading the pack, he was in a completely different race. This is the kind of statistical proof that tells you we are dealing with a once-in-a-generation, maybe once-in-a-century kind of talent.
So yeah, that brings us right to the central mystery we're tackling today. In a sport where literally everyone at the top is a certified genius, where every single player has dedicated their entire life to this game, how does one guy rise so far above everybody else? Is it just insane amounts of hard work, a totally unique playing style, or is it something more? Something you're just born with? Well, that is what we're here to find out.
First up, an unmatched dominance. Before we get into the how, let's just take a moment to appreciate the sheer scale of his reign. We're not talking about a player who had a hot streak for a year or two. We are talking about a level of sustained excellence that is, frankly, almost unheard of.
You know, this one little factoid, which you see a lot in chess forums, is so incredibly telling. The top tier of chess, that 2,700 plus club, it's a total Shark Tank. I mean, players' ratings are constantly going up and down. They have good tournaments, bad tournaments. If you took Magnus out of the equation, that number 1 spot would have been like a hot potato, passed between half a dozen different players in just a 2-year span. But with Magnus in the picture, total stability. He wasn't just the king on the board, he was the gravitational center for the entire chess world.
Okay, so to truly get what makes Carlsen unique, we first have to understand what makes all of these elite grandmasters the same. There's a certain set of building blocks, a foundation, that every single player at that level absolutely must have. No exceptions.
These right here are the table stakes. It's the price of admission to the big leagues. You have to start playing ridiculously young, wiring that brain for chess patterns from childhood. You have to devote your entire life to it. It's not a job, it is a complete and total obsession. And you need a massive support system, parents who see the gift and nurture it, and, let's be honest, the resources to get the best coaches and travel to all the tournaments. The old Soviet chess machine was so dominant for so long precisely because it systematically gave this foundation to all its best prospects.
And here it is. This is the crucial pivot. As one very smart person on Reddit pointed out, if everybody at the top has this exact same foundation, then that can't be the answer to what makes Carlsen so special, right? It's a necessary ticket to the dance, for sure, but it is not the secret ingredient. So if it isn't just that foundation, what is it?
All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. Let's dig into the specific, almost innate qualities that really define Carlsen's style. We're moving past the foundation everyone shares, and we're looking at the unique blueprint of this champion, his chess DNA.
You know, chess experts like Grandmaster Carsten Muller have these fascinating ways of categorizing players, and they put Magnus firmly in a group they call reflectors. Now, this is different from an activist player who's always looking for a fight, for a tactical brawl. A reflector is someone who seems to feel the game on this deep, intuitive level. They have this uncanny sixth sense for how all the pieces should work together in harmony. They don't always have to calculate 20 moves ahead, they just know where the pieces belong. They win not with some flashy knockout punch, but by slowly collecting these tiny, almost invisible advantages until their opponent's position just crumbles. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. And he's in legendary company here, right alongside past champions like Capablanca and Karpov. And this list breaks down what that really means in practice. First, his intuition is just the stuff of legend. Second, he's a phenomenal grinder in the endgame, that's the last phase of the game, where he can squeeze a win out of a position that looks dead even to anyone else just by being more patient and more resilient. He's also comfortable in any kind of position you throw at him, wild and chaotic or slow and strategic. Psychologically, the guy is an absolute rock. And this last one is so key. He often deliberately avoids these super deep, computer-memorized opening battles. He'd rather just get a playable, if quiet position and then simply outplay his opponent from there. He turns the game from a memory test into a pure test of understanding, and that's where his intuition gives him this massive edge.
So we've got this picture of an intuitive genius, but what about that age-old debate, talent versus hard work? There's a really popular theory that greatness is almost entirely just a product of grinding it out. Well, some absolutely fascinating academic research put Carlsen's career under the microscope, and what they found delivers a pretty shocking twist to the story.
You've probably heard of this idea, right? It was made famous by books like Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. It gets boiled down to the 10,000-hour rule. And the core idea is that what separates the good from the truly great isn't so much innate talent, but just an astronomical amount of focused, deliberate practice. The more you practice, the better you get. It's a simple and very appealing idea. But does it actually apply to Magnus Carlsen?
Okay, you might want to sit down for this, because this one slide basically upends that entire theory. A 2014 study by researchers Gobet and Eriku looked at the top 11 players in the world. And as you can see, Magnus, with his sky-high 2881 rating, had been practicing for 18 years. But the average for the next 10 best players in the world, a whopping 24.6 years. So get this, Carlsen reached the absolute summit of the chess world, having practiced, on average, 6.6 fewer years than his elite competition. That's the exact opposite of what the theory of deliberate practice would have you believe.
And if that wasn't crazy enough, check out this number, 5. It took Magnus Carlsen only 5 years of serious practice to become a grandmaster, which he did at the tender age of 13. This just flies in the face of the so-called 10-year rule, which says it takes at least a decade of hard work to become an expert in anything. Magnus did it in half the time. It's yet another clue that something beyond just practice has to be going on here.
So this leaves us with this incredible puzzle, right? We know the Grandmaster Foundation is essential, but it doesn't explain his dominance. And now we've got pretty strong evidence that it's not just about who grinds the hardest either. So we have to ask the question again, what is the missing piece of the Magnus Carlsen enigma?
And that brings us to the grand finale. The answer, it seems, isn't just one thing. Carlsen's unprecedented genius isn't just his style or his work ethic or his talent. No, it's a rare and unbelievably powerful fusion of all of them. It is a lethal combination that the chess world has never quite seen before.
Let's start with raw, undeniable talent. I mean, they didn't call him the Mozart of chess for nothing. The signs of this incredible mind were there long before he was a chess prodigy. That academic paper we mentioned notes this amazing little anecdote. When he was just 5 years old, he had memorized the area, the population, the flag, and the capital city of every single country in the world. That's not a chess skill. That's just a brain with a mind-boggling capacity for pattern recognition and memorization. That's the raw material his genius was built on.
But talent is one thing. Using it to win is another. Recent research developed this cool metric called the GI score, or General Intelligence Score. It's a really sophisticated way of using computers to analyze how much a player's moves actually increase their chance of winning. It's basically grading how practically effective their style is. And when you run the numbers on the World Championship games of the modern era, who comes out on top? Magnus Carlsen with a score of 161. He's higher than Vishy Anand and, get this, even higher than the great Garry Kasparov. It's data-driven proof that his unique, intuitive style is the single most effective winning machine chess has ever seen.
And who better to sum all this up than the man many considered the greatest player of all time, Garry Kasparov himself? He once said that Magnus Carlsen is a lethal combination of Fischer and Karpov. I mean, that is probably the highest praise one chess god can give to another, and it just perfectly nails what makes Carlsen so special. So what exactly did he mean by that?
To get that quote, you have to know these two legends. Bobby Fischer was that activist type we talked about. He was pure, relentless, tactical aggression. Opponents felt what they called Fischer fear because they knew he was just going to come at them, constantly pushing forward. Then you have Anatoly Karpov, the ultimate reflector, just like Carlsen. He He was famous for being a strategic boa constrictor, just slowly and methodically squeezing the life out of his opponent's position. Now, these two styles were seen as polar opposites, and Kasparov's point is that Magnus is somehow both. He has the suffocating positional genius of Karpov and the ruthless attacking precision of Fischer. He has the tools to beat you any way he wants to.
So, in the end, this is where we land. The answer to the Magnus enigma is that he's a perfect storm. You take that raw and Mozart-like intellectual horsepower he was just born with, you fuse it with the deep, intuitive understanding of a positional reflector like Karpov, then you add the killer instinct and the tactical bite of an activist like Fischer, and you wrap that entire package in an unshakable, ironclad psychological willpower. And what do you get? You get Magnus Carlsen. Not just the best player in the world, but a true phenomenon who has completely redefined what's possible in the game of chess.